Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to talk to you about a couple of additional ways in which you can learn to code. Now, at the minute we've kind of got this thing going around the entire planet, and it's causing quite a bit of disruption, and people are having to work from home. I've got friends that are actually in jobs where they need to work around people. They don't have the luxury of working from home. So I think as developers, we've kind of got this. We're kind of lucky in a sense. We've got this deal where we can essentially just take a laptop, we can work from home, we can kind of pretty much do it how we want to do it. That's not the same for everybody, but it is an option. Like your employer could say to you, work from home for the next 4 weeks or so, or whatever it might be. Um, and I think with some industries, that's not actually possible. And because of that, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the world at the moment, purely based on the fact that people just don't know what's going to happen. So I've had a lot of friends contact me and say, look, they might want to do something in the way of moving their careers to something where they can work from home more readily. And that's kind of understandable because it's more of a safety net. If you've got a system in place where you can work from home, then obviously that's great. Now, if you're brand new in terms of web development and you've never done any coding, then obviously you can't just sort of jump into a job. You need to learn and sort of get better. So whilst we're all in lockdown, it's probably a good idea to learn this stuff. So what I'm talking about today is a couple of these resources. I've tried both of these. One's free, one's not. If you've been in web development for any length of time, you've more than likely heard of these, but I just wanted to have a quick look and see what's what. So the first one is FreeCodeCamp, and basically it's literally what it says on the tin. It's a really simple website. It looks quite basic. There's no sort of crazy design going on here. They've got like a news section, a forum, and then obviously places where you can learn. I believe if you go to learn, it just comes, yeah, it's just this page. And then they have these different sections. But the good side for this website, for FreeCodeCamp, is obviously that it's free. It clues in the name. But also, just look at how many hours of stuff they've got here. So they've got like 300 hours of responsive web design stuff. And then 300 hours of JavaScript algorithms and data structures, which is crazy. 300 hours of front-end libraries, so that's going to be things like React, Bootstrap, we've got React here, Redux, all these different things. They even go into things like APIs, microservices, and then right at the bottom you've got coding interview prep. Now, it's obviously going to take you some time to get through this kind of stuff. So it's not going to happen overnight. But I think if you're looking at getting into coding and you want to sort of get the ball rolling, then I think this is the perfect place if you've got no prior experience. So if we just take a look at this, if you're looking responsive design, so I think the way that you're supposed to approach this is from top to bottom. So you start with responsive web design and you end with coding prep, coding interview prep, which makes sense, I guess, because this is kind of the last thing that you want to do. Now, I don't suppose you'd need to really go over all the content, depending on what kind of job or what kind of freelance gig you were looking for. So if you were just looking to build a website for somebody that you knew for a local business and they just wanted like a basic marketing page, then you could probably just get away with learning HTML and CSS. And if we go into this responsive stuff here, you can see that they start off at the very beginning, which is HTML and HTML5, and then they go into CSS. They also talk about like visual design and accessibility, all really important things. And as you can see, we've got like CSS grid stuff and Flexbox here. And yeah, there's quite a lot here. I mean, this 300 hours alone would be worth just its weight in gold. So you could probably take this first section, and once you've taken this first section, you could probably then go out and start doing design for people, either on a freelance basis, or you could do it as like a part-time job, or just do it for friends and family, whatever it might be. But there's certainly work that you could get just based purely on these first things. Now, as with everything, the main difference with reading or learning about something and actually getting good at it are two different things. And the way that you get good at something is to continuously do it. So with that in mind, the way that FreeCodeCamp works is, say if you go to this one here, and obviously you've got all these, like, I don't know whether you'd call them lectures or sort of lessons, probably lessons actually, but then you click on like this and it'll give you like this introduction. Now, one thing to note about FreeCodeCamp is that it's pretty much all text. There's no sort of video involved. It's all sort of reading, which, if you like reading, that's great. If you don't like reading, then this site might not be for you. But for me personally, I don't mind reading. I read a lot of books on this guy, on the Kindle, and it's a really good way of learning. The good thing about this is that obviously with text you can just kind of highlight things and go over things and reread things. That's fine. So it's pretty straightforward. So, as I say, they've got like upcoming lessons here. They've got like a curriculum. But if we go to the first lesson, so the idea is that you'd read through this section, kind of get an understanding of what the introduction's talking about, and then you go to the first lesson. And then, as I said earlier on, the best way to learn something isn't by reading it. So you could read a book on something, and once you've read that book, it would make perfect sense as you were reading it. But once you've read that book and put the book down, it's then about retaining that knowledge in your head. So as a brand new person coming to code, I think it's really important to go through and actually do tasks. That might be like coding challenges, or it might be interview questions, whatever it might be, but do something to kind of solidify the knowledge. If you're just reading from a book, or if you're just watching a tutorial on, say, YouTube or on some other website, then that's what I like to refer to as passive learning. It's okay because you are learning stuff and then you understand it, but if you don't apply it, it just won't stick. So with that in mind, what I would say is if you click on FreeCodeCamp and you go through these lessons, you read the text, and then you can go through here, and they have this option at the bottom that says like run the tests. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So to pass the test on this challenge, change your H1 element to say hello world, right? So at the minute it just says hello. You can see it up here. So you can edit code in here, which is great. And then if we just run the test, obviously this is going to fail. And then it gives you a clue down here. It says it should contain hello world. So let's just see what happens when we do this. And then if we run the test, and then it says you've got a badge. It's 4% complete. So then you go submit and you go through to the next one. So you can just kind of hit Control Enter. And then again, it'll kind of talk about these things. Now, these are really, really simple at the moment. But as you get deeper into stuff, they get more and more complex, obviously. They do actually have things like front-end stuff. So I've been playing around with the React ones just to see what they were like. So, for example, create a JSX element. So it talks about what JSX is in previous lessons. And then at the very bottom here, it will say the constant JSX should return a div element. And then you can basically build up your code here. If at any point you get stuck, then you can sort of get help. So if you're looking at getting into coding, whether it be on a freelance basis or if it's on like working for somebody else full-time, part-time, or just doing a gig for somebody, then I would definitely look at FreeCodeCamp as your first port of call. If you've got no coding experience, then this is a great place to start. If you have some coding experience, I think it's still quite good to go through this because you can always learn new stuff that you might not have picked up on before. But also, I think you'll get to a point where a lot of this is quite straightforward and quite simple, but that will take a while because you've got like hours and hours and hours of stuff here. So this is kind of one way that you can learn to code. And like I said before, this thing is free. How they can do this for free, I don't know, but this site is amazing. Based on the world and the way that things are at the moment with things that are happening, people are losing jobs. And I think if they can learn to code and pick this up through this website, then they'll be able to make an income through it. I mean, it might not be immediate and it might take some time and some effort, but it's a step in the right direction. And, you know, in terms of coding, there's always more jobs out there than there are actual developers or coders. There's always been a shortage of good talent. So if you can go through this and read it, then great. Now, the second one that I want to touch on is another one called CodeAcademy. Now, CodeAcademy is pretty much the same thing, apart from, first thing, it looks a lot better. It looks really nice. If I just log in, I think it was through Facebook I created my account. Yeah, there it is. So as you can see, you've kind of got like practice sections. You've got like courses here. You can learn Swift. So if you wanted to go and learn Swift, you see you've got 15 hours. But as you can see, this is a lot more glossy. This is a lot more detailed. You've got nice imagery and stuff. But again, it's very basic in terms of what you'll learn on here. So it's aimed at more of a beginner. But the difference here is that to get most out of this site, you'll have to pay for it. And it is not particularly cheap. It's £192, or you can pay £31 a month. But I mean, I guess it's cheap in the sense that you're giving yourself an education, right? I mean, it's not like going to university expensive, but at the same time, it's not free. Okay, I mean, my advice would be take a look at CodeAcademy for sure. Sign-ups for free. This is a free account that I've got here. I've not paid for it. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. I'm not sponsored by any of these. This is just personal sort of interest. But take a look at it, and then if you like it, if you like the format, if you like the content, then great. Just have a quick look at what content they've got. They've got so HTML and CSS would be the first place that you would go to. So HTML, CSS, and as you can see, these are free. These are on the free tier. So we've got even more generic stuff here, like a course on just making a website, which is really useful. And as I say, you can then pay and join the pro scheme, and then from there you can learn things like SaaS and deploying a website, and you've got absolutely tons of stuff really. Let's have a look at, say, JavaScript. That's probably a big section. So you've got like these creating games, D3, Vue.js. The only thing I will say is like the Vue.js was 3 hours, so they're not huge courses. But yeah, I've not done them myself, so they might be decent. And then you've got like async, JavaScript, and then you've got the React courses, which are free, which are great as well. So these are the two resources that I would recommend. I would mostly recommend FreeCodeCamp, but definitely take a look at CodeAcademy as well, because they're both brilliant. And like I say, if you can learn as much as you can from these two websites, maybe pick up a few books, do some extra, things around in the web development space. But the primary thing I would say is whatever you read, whatever you watch, tutorials, you must practice it, because that's the only way that you're going to solidify it in your brain. You want to be an active learner rather than a passive learner. And then finally, one thing that I wanted to mention was me and a friend have recently released a podcast. So it's kind of more like what this channel does in terms of content. You can subscribe at thefreelancedeveloper.co.uk, and we've got just one show in the bag at the minute. We're going to schedule to do another one, I believe, next week. Yeah, next Wednesday. So we'll be getting that out to you. But if you're interested in the podcast, then feel free to sign up to that. And thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe and all that shenanigans. And I shall catch you in the next video. So thanks a lot. Cheers.